Hey everyone on YouTube and Facebook. Welcome to Potomac Local Live. I'm Uriah Kaiser. I'm the publisher of Potomac Local News, and thank you all so much for joining us today for this conversation we're having with Manassas School Board member Robyn Williams. Ms. Williams is also a council candidate for Manassas City Council, and she's making a bid for one of three open council seats. And we'll talk about some of the issues that are facing the school board as well as the city. Recent meeting that Ms. Williams attended yesterday was a legislative update. And so we'll get a sense of what the issues are right now facing the schools, students, parents, and community members alike. Before we get started, I want to remind you that you can get your days and news every day from us from PotomacLocalNews.com. And there we put all of our community updates on that all day long. You can also sign up for our free news email. Just go to PotomacLocalNews.com and click on email newsletter, and we'll send the day's news to you free of charge. Thank you so much for your support. And without further ado, I'm going to bring on Miss Robyn Williams from the Manassas City School Board. Thanks for joining us.
And thank you so much for having me.
So let's get right down to it. You guys had a meeting yesterday. When I say you guys, that's both the city school board and the city council. It was a joint meeting. I was also attended by two state legislators, delegates, State Senator Danica Rome and Delegate Michelle Maldonado. And from the looks of it, it was an update about what's happening with school board policies and issues facing the schools. So enlighten us and talk to us a little bit about what you guys talked about yesterday.
Okay, so typically we have a legislative day breakfast every year. It's usually annually, but when we had scheduled, it was always around November, beginning of October. And by that time, everybody in the General Assembly has kind of already done all their work. They've submitted their bills, have already spoken to the community to see what types of bills they would like to put forth. So as a group, the city and the school board chose to do one kind of prior to the when the sessions begin, so we could better express what it is that we find that we need on the school side as well as the city side. So we as a school board reiterated what our priorities were to them, and then the city did the same.
What are some of those priorities?
So what the reality is right now, funding. Virginia still, and specifically Manassas City, we have a really difficult time with funding, and we put so much pressure on the municipality because we don't get truly enough from the state. The state, I actually just looked this up before I came on because I thought we were ranked a lot lower, but we have the state as well as city have put a lot of time and effort into making sure we focus on compensation. And so now the state.
Sorry, that's my weather alarm going off. 1 second. Okay. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
That's okay. Hey, so we put a lot of money into schools, both at the state level, and I'm so that is the state has a funding formula. They've had this funding formula for a long time, and they fund per standards of quality. It's SOQ, and basically the big picture is it's not the state's responsibility to pay 100% of education. There's got to be some municipality input, but our funding formula is quite dated, quite old, and does not incorporate a lot of the support that that schools need in today's society. So much has changed.
And you
So
guys are operating, it looks like at last in the 24 budget. I don't have numbers for 25 in front of me, but like you have it looks like you have about $140 million worth of revenue coming into you. And just to be clear, when we say Manassas, this is Manassas City, right? So no schools in Prince William County. This is the city of Manassas, which is separate from Prince William County schools. And so when you are funded right? You are funded primarily through state and federal, but also from local tax dollars. And so it's important to note that that city council, who is separate from the board, the school board, uh, gives a significant portion of its budget over to the schools for for the school board to spend as it wishes.
Correct, correct. And in the state, federal government gives very little. The state gives a significant amount. However, the municipality gives the most. Um, in order to educate all of our children. Um, so that is where most of our priorities lie. Um, there was a JLARC study done at the state level, and so the General Assembly is really looking at that closely. One of our priorities is back in 2009, the General Assembly put a cap. They made there's a ratio cap on our support staffs who supports teachers. They support education in the classroom. And again, that funding formula has not changed, and they put that cap on it. And so, what that really is doing to us is it's not accounting for all. It's not accounting at all for local labor costs. I mean, those costs have increased significantly since 2009.
So do
So
we know how much more money that you need to make to make, I guess, the school board more competitive in terms of attracting teachers and retaining teachers?
what we are working really hard at closing that gap to our closest, really truly Prince William County as our
Mhm.
closest competitor. Um, they're right across. I mean, we are right in the middle of kind of Prince William, right in the middle. So it's so easy for somebody if their salary is so much better than ours to just go right across that line.
Mhm.
We are still short. I don't know the exact number. We were significantly short for teachers, about 16% for just teachers, licensed teachers. We keep trying to close that gap. As we try and close that gap, the county then increases those salaries as well. So it's really tough to catch up. Exactly how far behind we are right now, I'm not quite sure. I'd have to get back with you on that.
You know, I imagine part of retaining good talent is creating a workspace that people actually want to be in. And sometimes, right, if the number may if the salary may not be as high as some other jurisdiction nearby, if it's still a good place to work, and still somebody a place that teacher or administrator or somebody wants, even students, of course, want to come to. And we'll get into the attendance issue in a bit. What's morale like right now amongst the teachers in the city school division? We've seen so much happen post COVID. You know, we've come a long way since virtual learning. Even though it may seem like yesterday, we've come a very long way since the reopening of schools. But teachers went through a lot. Parents and students went through a lot. What's the mood at Manassas City Schools right now?
So a couple years ago, with the entire state of Virginia, the learning gap was so large, and we really had to make some big changes. And we needed teachers to step in. We needed everybody to work really hard to get our children up to par, and try and close that learning gap from, especially from COVID. Um, as far as morale, I'm going to say it depends because there are many teachers who are we put a lot of effort in coaching teachers, giving them support, and a lot of them really like that in their, not just our school district, but all the school districts around us are really focusing on collaborative learning, and that's working really well, helping teachers. The state has provided a lot of support for reading coaches, and that has been a tremendous help. There are a lot of teachers who I think, and honestly, I think this is like any other industry. There are teachers who um, it's hard. It's not easy. It's hard. So I think at that point we are seeing some teachers just totally getting out of the industry at that point. So I know you probably don't. A lot of people think it depends. It may not be the best answer, but the reality is that is the case. So that
And then I imagine the state legislators are. I mean, is that are how is the school board getting that message to the state legislators saying that, hey, this is what we're facing? Describe the conversation that you had yesterday with the Senator Rome and Delegate Maldonado.
the conversation we had was just reviewing what it is I'm telling you right now. We talked about mental health. We talked about teachers' salary. We talked about um, let's don't put a lot of mandates on top of teachers and school boards without funding them because that just puts more pressure. That was the conversation we had with our senator and delegate. Um, Vice versa, they shared some things with us, um, some things that they're trying to do to help with us and our needs. One thing, Delegate Maldonado shared with us is that this past Governor Youngkin's um, administration has put a lot of money and effort into schools. She said we've got a 44.3% increase. Now she 44 that we've got a challenge here. We've got a 44.3% increase in her district, District 20, of Hispanics, which are the English learners. So they've really, the Governor Youngkin has put a lot of funds behind English learners. So I felt like that was fantastic. In 2025, they're planning to increase support for EL learners by $43 million. So I think the message that we are trying to relay to our senator and our delegate at the state level, I believe they're listening to us, and I believe that they find it to be important, and it's working.
You bring up the English language learner, and I remember we wrote earlier in the year, or it could have been even in 2023, where we heard from some parents who made some comments on our reporting that addressed the English learners, and there was a sense there was a sort of two schools of thought. There was one that the English learner students require more attention, and then by in turn pull down others in the class because so much time, teacher time and attention is given to the children who need to learn how to speak English. And then, of course, the other school of thought was, hey, listen, all of these kids, this is a public school, they belong, they need a place, they're here to learn like everybody else. Let's not single them out. And so when we talk about what teachers are facing, and you bring up the English language learners, is that given the increase, how are the schools dealing with that?
We have quite a bit of English learning teachers who are specialized in that, and we we focus on we focus on that quite a bit. And inside the classroom themselves, that's where they're really focusing on grouping students with their skill sets and teaching, making sure we're complying to educating. And when I say complying, I don't mean complying per se, but they're really focused on taking each child and uplifting them to their best ability. Um, English learners, they have learning classes, so sometimes they the teachers are focused on that alone, while other teachers within that collaborative learning group are honing in on what skill sets work and teaching each teacher and focusing on instruction, and that's how they're working it in the classroom.
I want to switch gears and talk about the grading scale. We've done some reporting. School board member Sarah Brescia has led the discussion about returning to the pre-COVID grading scale that the schools used to use. And this was for lack of a better word, harder grading scale. It did not allow students to essentially make up tests or assignments until they essentially passed that assignment. And it had a little more rigor to it than the current grading scale, according to the reporting that we've done on this. So we understand that there is that discussion is still moving forward. Where do you stand on this discussion of returning the grading scale to what it used to be prior to COVID?
I really like the grading scale. Like prior to COVID, our grading scale, it gave in the very first. Now I cannot remember specifically. It was either the first quarter or the first semester. It gave students a lot of leeway, gave teachers a lot of leeway. They could. They didn't have to, if they didn't turn in work, they could give them 50. There was no zero floor in the beginning. And then after that second semester, then it got your kids get used to it. They start to realize, okay, I need to buckle down and get this work done. And so it was, I thought it was best of both worlds. Um, I think the issue with the current grading policy is it doesn't allow, it allows for students to really do absolutely nothing until the end of the quarter, which in my view, I don't know how does a student truly learn that way? They're not, if they're not learning throughout the quarter, then they're not going to pass their assessments and they're not going to learn. I think intuitively we all know that, and I think the new grading policy that we're still discussing it.
And
Unfortunately,
what does the timeline look like? I mean, if people want to get involved, if they want to be a part of that discussion, obviously, they can email you. But if they want to come out to a meeting and have public comment and talk about how their student is doing with the current grading scale, and hear some of these discussions about the changes that are being proposed, talk to me about how they can get involved.
okay, so email, email, all the entire board. There you can also, not this Tuesday, but next Tuesday is our next regular meeting. Come to the meeting. We have public comment. Please come. We love to hear from you. We've heard from quite a few, and
And
we
what are
love.
they saying? Well, when people are emailing you, what are you reading? And when people talk to you about this issue, what are they saying?
uh, Mostly most people when they do email us, it's not that many that do email us. We don't hear from enough people in my view, but when they do email us, they do share with us they can't get their kid motivated. This is not good for them. Their values are not being taught, and teaching their kids certain values. You need to do work on time. Um,
Yeah, because I mean, you imagine you go out to the workplace. I mean, it's you can't just, if you show up for your shift, you can't wait to the last, end of the quarter or the last hour of your shift to actually get work done. You're expected to kind of meet deadlines and do that sort of thing. And so it sounds like you're hearing from parents that the current city's grading scale doesn't really prepare students for life in the real world.
No, and it's not what they're and what parents are thinking they're teaching at school is not at all what they're really teaching. When I say teaching, I'm talking about the expectations. That's not what we're doing in the classroom. Some That's what we're seeing most of.
So, is there a vote coming up on this issue? Are we expected to talk about it at the next school board meeting, or what's the timeline?
We're going to talk about it the next school board meeting. I will share with you that the majority of our school board, they did make a couple changes to the current policy. One was that all the work had to be turned in 1 week prior to the end of the quarter. In my view, that still does not, um, that's not going to challenge students, and I think they're learning. I think that will reflect in our scores again if we allow that to happen. Unfortunately, the majority of our school board at this point in time thinks that is okay. A quick discussion we had last week was perhaps moving that to 2 weeks before the end of the quarter, and some of our school board members felt like that might be amenable to them. Um,
But this is, I mean, and it's been 20 years since I've been in public school, and since in high school, 20 going on. I'm aging myself, 25 years, going close to it. But I remember when the teacher said the homework was due, the homework was due. And it doesn't seem like that is the case anymore. So why is there such a divide on the school board, when you're hearing from parents who saying, "Listen, we want our kids better prepared for life in the real world, and when deadlines are set, they're expected to be met." Where is the divide? Can you explain to me any, just how, I don't know.
I would love to be answered the divide because I can't comprehend that division. I can't. So it's hard for me to speak to it because um it just is intuitively, it's our students will not be successful if we continue this way. I think
Okay.
our current school board wanted to wait to receive some data before they made any changes to the policy. And we've gotten that data in my view. And in my view, the data documents we need to go back to the way it was prior to COVID.
I want to shift gears now and talk to you about your run for city council. This is the first time you and I have been able to have a conversation about your bid for city council, which is coming up. You're actually campaigning right now. The election is in the fall, and now because it seems we have 45 days of early voting. It's always election season. It seems like all the time now. So early voting starting in September. How many years have you been on the school board?
I am completing my 8th year.
8 years on the school board. So you know a little bit about how the city works, I think. This would be a change for you, seeking one of 3 open seats on the city council. Why the move?
Well, as you are fully aware, Ms. Sebeski is retiring her seat from City Council, and she was the one member that had the institutional knowledge from the school board. And I feel it's very important to have somebody with that institutional knowledge on school board. The council members, and if we get all new council members, they need to have an understanding how the schools work, why they do what they do, how they're funded, because we spend well over 45 cents on the dollar, 47, 48 cents on the dollar for schools. So that's my big one ticket. And I want to be able to support the schools.
And you are one of 3 candidates running as a Republican for the school. I'm sorry, for the city council. And right now, there is only one Republican on that governing body, that being Councilmember Teresa Coates Ellis. And so the hope here is that you will be elected. Obviously your hope here is that you will be elected, and 2 others being Republicans could be elected along with you, and that would bring some balance to what we've seen on the city council. We've seen some divisive issues between the city council, especially when it comes to the Dean Elementary School and where that school should go, where it should be located. The city council has long said, "Hey, we allocated funding for that project a long time ago. That money kind of went and was used. The school division spent that money elsewhere." And now they're back at this juncture where they're still going back and forth. I think the school board retained legal counsel to go after to challenge the city council over this issue. And so I think the residents, the ones that are paying attention, are kind of wondering why the 2 boards are going at it over this issue, and if the council does need a more balanced approach to some of the decisions that they're making.
Well, of course, I think balance is good no matter what. Um, the 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 We were supposed to start Jenny Dean a little while ago, and then COVID hit. That's the reality of it. And the city does put quite a bit of money aside every year for schools now, for capital improvements, for buildings, whether it's build new or remodel. So that's was put in place a couple years ago. As at this point, we are what we in the beginning, we were in conflict about where to put the building after the site work was done. There was negotiating. Now the site work at this point in time, we know exactly where we're going to put the school, and I believe we're pretty much done. And now we are just moving forward on building, and it's going to be done hopefully real soon.
Good,
I mean, as far as
good.
the process and getting all the construction moving, I think all the permits and those are the things that take time, and those are where we kind of had some more negotiating to do, and now that's done. So we are going to continue. We are now moving forward, full steam
We
ahead.
have we have heard so many issues over the course of the past year, and it really has seemed to really come into the forefront in the past year. We've seen major turnover at City Hall. Patrick Pate, who was the city manager, a beloved city manager for many, many years. You talk to a lot of people, at least I did, talk to a lot of people who work at City Hall. They really liked working for him.
Mhm.
And he announced his departure last year. He got a new job. It was a much larger city. He went to Winston-Salem, North Carolina. But we also saw some turnover from the people who work under him as well. We've
Mhm.
seen a string of power outages over the course of the past year, and the city scrambling to fix those issues. So when you're knocking doors and you're saying, "I'm running for city council," what's on the minds of the neighbors that you're talking to?
Well, those items that you just mentioned are not on the minds of the neighbors. What is on the mind, it's interesting. The two, well, I'll say 3. Our schools seem to be number 1. People are very concerned about schools. And then the second is crime. I didn't realize crime was so high on everybody's list when you talk about it. And you that I don't think that reflects in surveys. And the reason why I don't think that reflects in surveys is because you know what? They quietly are concerned about crime and they just move. Um, we knocked doors this weekend, and we have 4 people just in the group that I was knocking tell me that they're moving because of crime, and I was surprised to hear that.
The police chief, Douglas Keene, is now the interim city manager, and so he's sort of now and the police department does have a person in charge. He's not overseeing both departments, so that's fair to say. But if you're elected council, what direction would you give the police chief to lower the crime in Manassas City if that's such an issue that you're hearing?
And that's a very difficult answer, and a lot of it, and the reason why I say that is because in my own neighborhood we've had issues with um, these kids that would motorcycles and four-wheelers and just ride down the street extremely fast, no lights on the sidewalk. It was extremely dangerous. And we met with, at that point in time, with Chief Keen, and he shared with us the frustration of Manassas City Police doing everything they can, getting these kids, arresting these kids, and then the unfortunate Commonwealth attorneys putting them right back on the streets. So that is extremely difficult. And perhaps as council, we need to work a lot closer with the Commonwealth Attorney's Office.
Yeah, you bring that up, and we actually interviewed via email the Commonwealth Attorney, Prince William County Commonwealth Attorney Amy Ashworth last week. We had a shooting outside of Manassas Mall, which is located in Prince William County, not in the city of Manassas, though it is called Manassas Mall. And the shooting took place outside of the food court, and we learned that one of the suspects in this case,
Mhm,
5 total people have been arrested, but one of them is out on bond, and
mhm,
they were released on bond from a crime that they're charged with back in December, and it was another serious crime where somebody got hurt. It was a bodily injury type of thing. So we've seen that this is not Prince William Police say this is not gang related, but yet still 2 people were shot outside of the food court at Manassas Mall, and so I guess that's why you're hearing more and more that crime in the city of Manassas and Manassas area is an issue.
mhm.
So so go ahead.
So yeah, so I was going to say those two, and um, seniors, they're just getting priced out, and if we're going to have, there's so much relief you have to give different groups. For example, veterans. If Manassas City only has X amount of dollars, so we can't give relief to everybody. So there has got to be a qualification process. So unfortunately, seniors are really feeling the pinch with the high inflation rate. So perhaps we could relieve some of it by um, the tax rate, the real estate taxes.
Yeah, the tax rate did go down this year in the July 1st, 2025 budget, but the bill
Yeah.
continues to go up. right?
Mhm.
So we can say that the city council is famous for saying
Yeah.
we lowered the tax rate, but that really doesn't translate over to the amount of money that people pay when it comes to their property tax, their home, the tax bill on their house or their apartment, the property in which they own.
Yeah.
It keeps going up.
And what's concerning with what is concerning, and one reason why I feel like we really do need balance at the city level is years ago there was a councilman who said we're raising taxes now so we don't have to continue raising taxes later. Well, they raised taxes then and they continue to raise taxes every year. And I understand we do have to keep up with inflation. We do have to compensate employees. However, that just that rings wrong. You don't raise taxes now in hopes not to raise taxes next year. Let's take care. Let's really look at the revenue that's coming in. I sat in a appreciation breakfast a month and a half ago, and the mayor did talk about how great the city's doing, how we are increasing our revenue from all sources, meals tax. We have the lowest office vacancy rate in the area. So if we're doing so well and we have all these revenues, why do we have to put more of the tax burden on our residents as well as our business owners? So we need to look at that and look at the current expenses. Where is the money going, and what are the expenses? We could look closer at that.
Well, I certainly do appreciate you coming on and talking to us about several different things today. I think you've opened the eyes to a lot of our audience, our readers, our viewers about the issues facing Manassas City Public Schools. And I think you gave us a great insight into what you'll be running on this
Mhm.
fall. For your bid for city council. And I'm sure there'll be plenty other opportunities for us to talk like this as issues arise and as you continue the campaign. So we say good luck to you.
Thank you, and I want everybody to please express to me I would love to hear more from the community.
Yeah, please do. Just go ahead and give your email address out so people can jot that down or go to the city schools website to find that. Go ahead.
Okay, so my website is Robyn Williams for Manassas City, for spelled out FOR, at gmail.com.
Okay.
Give
All
me,
right.
give me a shout. All right,
All
thank
right.
you. I appreciate it.
And thank you all very much for joining us. If you haven't already, please go to our website, potomac.localnews.com, and get the news of the day and sign up for that free email newsletter that we send out. We'll send it right to your email news box so you can keep up with what's happening in your community. We thank you so much for your support. And if you like what you read, please consider supporting us by becoming a member for $9 a month or $103 a year. You save a little bit of money on that annual membership, but your support means that we can continue having conversations like these and talking about the stories that matter most to our community. I'm Uriah Kaiser with Potomac Local. Have a great day.